Are you in the process of making a significant change at a software company to how people work or maybe what tools they're using? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to talk about why change initiatives fail during software development projects. Hi, I'm Jamie Edwards and I help leaders of software development teams and software companies to do a better job releasing their software, understanding what their customers want, and having an environment where people can be as creative and innovative as possible. Today, let's talk about change management initiatives and why sometimes they fail even though the intentions were really good by those who actually wanted to make the change. Well, when we talk about change management, the first thing many people think of, and what I often see in companies that are a little more immature in this area, is a big announcement. Some executive or manager or somebody in the company communicates to a wide audience, or everybody maybe just even on your development team, this is something we want to change. And everybody gets this communicated to them once, but what happens after that and actually before that is even more important. So if all you do is actually just announce a change to people, that's really one step in getting the change to happen, but it's really not enough to motivate people to actually make that change happen. The second thing most people do is create some sort of documentation or training. So if you were a lead over a software development team and you wanted to change a pattern that the team was going to use to develop some aspect of the software, you might create a wiki page or a training video or something that describes how you're going to do the new work the new way after the change occurs. And then from then on, the thought is, anytime I need to communicate this to someone, I just give them a link to this wiki article, or I give them, this document that describes how to do it, or they watch a video or something like that. Now, that tells the person how to make the change, and if there was a big announcement, or maybe just even in your Scrum team meeting in the morning, if you're doing daily Scrums or something like that, you might just say, hey, we're going to make this change. Here's where you need to go to learn how it works. But that actually just tells people how to make the change. We need to go a little further than that. The third thing that many companies do when putting a change in front of the way people work, or a change about a tool that's going to be used, or on a software development team, simply a new pattern that's going to be followed, is the concept of governance. And really, this is what some firms that get hired just to do big change management initiatives focus on, which is really, how is the leadership or whoever initiated a change going to measure how well people are actually following the transition to do the work in the new way, or use the new tool, or use the new process or pattern. And governance typically is around, what are we going to measure that tells us that we're actually getting more people to follow this new rule or change that we want to enforce? Now, it's definitely important that you find a way to measure governance. And if you're just on a team and you've introduced, let's say, a new software development pattern, governance can be as simple as, if you're doing pair programming and you're sitting with someone and writing code, working with them whenever they do things to kind of remind them, hey, we've got that one pattern. Remember, we read the wiki topic about it together? We need to make sure that we're following that. And, oh yeah, that's right. And you just follow the pattern. Or if you're not doing pair programming and you're maybe doing code reviews, you could bring up in a code review something like that. And that's really going to help people kind of know, we still need to follow this. We actually need to do it, but it's not going to come automatically. The governance in this case is just communication between people, keeping each other in check. Now, in a larger company, if there was a change that was introduced, you might actually have a tool or automation or some sort of digital product or even mobile application that people use. And every time they use it or they do some work, it tracks, or it knows, or it records whether that person did the thing, whatever that is, in the new way that there's an initiative that the change is trying to encourage people to do. So that's really governance, which is really just, how do we actually measure that people are doing it and communicate the success of the change? The fourth thing, though, to consider about change initiatives, and is really one of the things I see many companies need help with, and they don't really think strongly enough about this, is what's in it for me? Meaning, if you're asking somebody to make a change and asking them to work a different way than they have before, you really need to figure out, how do I communicate to that individual why they should make this change? Now, one thing you might be thinking right away is, well, what if this is a change that we have to do just to follow, let's say, government regulation and how we develop? Or maybe you're in the pharmaceutical industry with your software, and the Food and Drug Administration requires you to develop software a new way. Well, in that case, what's in it for you is the company, unfortunately, has to meet this new regulatory demand, and so the person you're asking to do the change just needs to understand, we don't really have a say in this. This is just something that we need to do from now on. And unfortunately, there's not much in it for that person. However, many changes I see software companies or leads just on development teams make really do have a benefit to the person who's being asked to make the change. Here's the rub, though. It's not the same benefit for everybody. You know, if you're asking someone, let's say for example, to start on a Kanban or Scrum team doing requirements a different way, like you want them to record, hey, I want you to spend a little more time, this is a change we'd like to make on the team, describing, let's say, the acceptance criteria. You know, you're really good at describing maybe the user story or what the software should do from a high level, but you know, we're asking for a change for you to maybe be more detailed. Well, each person on the team, you know, they've got their own life, their own history, their different experiences, their background, and there's things going on in their life and in their job that are totally different than the other person that's sitting right next to them. If you want to get them to make that change, one of the best ways to do it is to know that person and know what motivates them and know a little bit about the pain they've experienced in the past. If you know all that, well, then when you ask them to make a change, you can tailor exactly why you're asking them to make the change to their pain and their things they're looking for. So one of the things that many change initiatives try to do is, you know, maybe send out some surveys or ask one or two people, you know, we're thinking of making this change. How could we sell this change? You know, how could we make this look attractive to more people? And certainly that's an efficient way to do it that I think from a company management standpoint, it looks like it would save money, it's less work. But you know, if you really want to get people to make a change, the best way that I've seen people do it is somebody actually spends the time getting to know the people who are going to be affected by the change, and when they ask them to make the change, they meet with them personally and tell them, look, here's something we're going to do now new in the company. Here's how it's going to actually help you. You know how there was that vendor maybe who came in before that we hired that was a consultant, and they tried to make a change and it made you upset maybe? Well, we're introducing, let's say, some new way of how we're going to validate our business ideas, and this is going to prevent that from happening again in the future. And if that's something that really bothers that person from an emotional intelligence and motivation standpoint, they're going to feel like, oh great, one of the things that really bothers me, this is going to help me with it. There's a way higher likelihood that they're going to then like the change or support you in it and be willing to do the work it takes to actually make the change, so that, you know, if you are measuring governance, there's a better chance they actually do it willingly. But what this takes is we need to know the people on our team authentically, meaning people not just as, oh, that person, you know, 2 cubes down from me, or that person in my Slack channel that I only talk to every couple days, I talk to them when I need something. No, you need to know people on a more personal level and know a little bit about what's going on in their life and going on that's frustrating them at work, if you're going to know enough about what motivates them to be able to take them into consideration when you're proposing the change. So the summary of this video really is, if you're thinking about making a change at a company, I think one of the things we have to consider is, if that change is beneficial to people, finding a way to communicate to them where it aligns with their motivations and challenges in past is really important. It takes time, but it's going to dramatically increase the success. If you have a change, though, that is not attractive to people, or it's really just grunt work, or it's something you really have to do because it's just about regulatory compliance and nobody is going to be excited about it, well, one of the best ways to get people to support that change is to reward them. So a lot of companies ask their people at software companies to make a change to how they're working, to give, let's say, the business some measurability that they want, that they feel like is going to help the company be more predictable about something, which often I see doesn't really have that result. It's simply something to give management a feeling of comfort because they're measuring something. But that aside, if we're going to ask people to make a change that makes their day and their work a little more laborious than it used to be, think about rewarding them, whether that's flexible time, actual monetary or money rewards. Maybe give those people some ownership in the change, or let them be involved in the tool selection. The more you can let people feel like, if my company decides they need to ask me to do something that's difficult, that's actually going to make my job harder, but it's going to benefit them, if it's not going to directly benefit the people making the change, companies who are willing to invest in some sort of reward or some sort of, recognition that people get for doing a good job of following that change are much more likely to actually see people intrinsically motivated to make the change, versus having someone come along and basically say, you must do this, I'm going to hold your finger on it and measure you about it and make sure that you're actually following it. So if you like this video today, give me a thumbs up below, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you next time.